Months passed after Tunde and Adebimpe made the painful decision to rebuild their marriage. They prayed together every morning, attended marriage counseling, and slowly began to restore the friendship they had almost lost. Though their financial struggles remained, they found comfort in each other's company once again. For the first time in years, laughter returned to their little apartment. One evening, while preparing dinner, Adebimpe suddenly paused. "Tunde." He looked up from the newspaper he was reading. "Yes, been feeling strange these past few days," he smiled. "Maybe you're just tired." She nodded but couldn't shake the feeling. The following morning she visited a nearby hospital for a routine checkup. After running several tests, the doctor returned with a smile. "Congratulations, Mrs. Tunde." She stared in disbelief. "You are pregnant." Room spun around her. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "After all these years." The doctor nodded gently. Sometimes miracles arrive after hope has almost disappeared. That evening, she rushed home with the medical report. Tunde was repairing an old chair when she entered. Without saying a word, she handed him the envelope. He read it once, then again. His hands began to tremble. Before either of them realized it, they were both crying and embracing each other. For the first time since their wedding, they felt that perhaps God had remembered them. But joy, they would soon discover, often attracts unexpected battles. Within days of the pregnancy, strange events began to occur. Every night Adebimpe had terrifying dreams. In one dream, she saw an old woman carrying a crying baby into a dark forest. In another, a mysterious figure stretched out a hand and whispered, "This child belongs to us." Each time she awoke, she found herself soaked in sweat. She kept these dreams to herself, believing they were merely fears born from years of disappointment. Unknown to her, Tunde was experiencing similar nightmares. He repeatedly dreamed of his childhood home. In the dream, his late grandmother stood at the doorway. She never smiled. She simply pointed toward his father's room and said, "The truth has been buried there." Dream came again and again, until Tunde could no longer ignore it. One Saturday morning, he decided to visit his parents alone. His mother welcomed him warmly, pretending nothing had ever happened. His father, however, looked uncomfortable. "What brings you here?" he asked. "I need answers." "Answers about what?" "My childhood." His father remained silent. "Dreams won't stop," Tunde continued. "There are things I remember now, ceremonies, strange visitors, nights when I woke up and people were chanting in our compound." His father's face hardened. "Allowed fear to control your mind." Tunde replied quietly, "I want the truth." For several moments, neither of them spoke. Finally, his father stood up. "There are some truths that destroy families." Tunde answered, "And there are lies that destroy lives." Without another word, his father walked away. That silence troubled Tunde more than any confession could have. When he returned home, he told Adebimpe everything. Instead of fear, she held his hands. "Whatever the truth may be," she said, "we will face it together." Weeks later, the pregnancy reached its 5th month. Everything seemed normal until one afternoon when Adebimpe suddenly collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital. The doctors worked quickly. Hours later, they emerged with encouraging news. "Baby is alive." Relief flooded the family, yet one elderly nurse quietly pulled Tunde aside. "Worked here for over 30 years, she whispered. "Seen frightened mothers before, but your wife keeps talking while unconscious." Tunde frowned. "What is she saying?" The nurse hesitated. "She keeps repeating one sentence." "What sentence?" "Don't let them take my baby." A chill ran down his spine. That night, after Adebimpe recovered, she confessed she remembered nothing. The nightmares became worse. At the suggestion of their pastor, the couple began spending nights in prayer, not prayers born out of panic, but prayers filled with faith. They refused to allow fear to rule their home again. Meanwhile, trouble was quietly growing elsewhere. Tunde's father had become unusually withdrawn. He barely spoke to anyone. One evening, his wife confronted him. "What are you hiding?" He sighed heavily. "There is a debt." "Debt? Our family made a covenant many years ago." She stared at him. "You promised never to speak of that again." "I know." "What has it got to do with Tunde?" He lowered his head. "First grandchild." His wife gasped. "No, I never thought the day would come." Fear settled over the house like a dark cloud. The following week, Tunde's father unexpectedly appeared at his son's doorstep. He looked older, weaker, almost broken. "I need to speak with both of you." They invited him inside. After a long silence, he finally began. "Many years before you were born, our family was poor. Help from people who claimed they possessed supernatural powers. They promised wealth and influence. They delivered. Tund listened without interrupting. But every gift has a price. His father's voice trembled. A covenant was made. The first male child of every generation would one day surrender his firstborn. Room fell silent. Adebimpe instinctively placed both hands over her stomach. Tund rose to his feet. You offered your future grandchildren. His father burst into tears. I was young. I was desperate. I thought it was only a story. Strange deaths followed. My elder brother lost his first son. My cousin lost twins. I began to realize it was real. Didn't you tell me? I was ashamed. Several moments nobody spoke. Finally, Tund said, the covenant ends with me. His father looked up. It is not that easy. Tund replied firmly, my child belongs to God, not to darkness. The old man wept openly. That confession changed everything. Instead of running in fear, the couple intensified their faith. They forgave Tund's father but refused to surrender to hopelessness. Months later, labor began. It was a difficult delivery. Doctors struggled for several hours. Outside the maternity ward, both families waited anxiously. Old grudges no longer mattered. Everyone prayed then. A baby's cry echoed through the hospital. The doctor emerged smiling. Congratulations. It's a healthy baby boy. Joy erupted. Tund fell to his knees in thanksgiving. Adebimpe's parents embraced him for the first time since the wedding. Even Tund's father cried uncontrollably. But the greatest miracle came days later. The old man returned home. He gathered every object connected to the old family practices, charms, amulets, hidden symbols, everything. He destroyed them all. Standing before his family, he declared, no wealth is worth the lives of our children. Months passed peacefully. The baby, whom they named David, grew healthy and cheerful. Their home, once filled with tears, now overflowed with laughter. Tund eventually secured stable employment with a reputable company. Adebimpe started a small business that flourished beyond expectations. For the first time since their marriage, they experienced genuine peace. One evening, while watching the sunset, Adebimpe smiled. You remember the day we thought our marriage was over? Tund laughed softly. Now I realize something. What? The greatest battles were never between you and me. They were against fear, pride, unforgiveness, and the mistakes of previous generations. She nodded. And we almost allowed them to win. Years later, young couples often visited their home seeking advice. Some expected to hear a romantic love story. Instead, Tund always began with these words. Marriage is not sustained by emotions alone. Adebimpe would continue. Love may bring two people to the altar, but forgiveness, faith, wisdom, patience, and commitment keep them there. Story of their family spread throughout the town. People who once judged Tund because of his parents now saw how one person's decision to choose righteousness could rewrite an entire family history. Even Tund's father became a changed man. He spent the rest of his life encouraging young people never to trade integrity for temporary gain. His greatest testimony was simple. The chains that bound one generation do not have to bind the next. And so, what began as the agony of a disobedient bride became the testimony of an obedient wife, a transformed husband, and a family that discovered redemption. For every generation has a choice, to repeat the mistakes of the past, or to break the cycle forever.